Hello and welcome to Your Average Bear Gaming. I am George. Today I have some very sad news for my faithful viewers, all three of you. And that sad news is a magnetization failure. I had hoped to come up here and talk to you about how to magnetize your field ordnance battery for the Astra Militarum. I don't have any Adaptus Mechanicus. I don't know why that was a thing in my head. Astra Militarum. Games Workshop put out this kit a few months back and it looks gorgeous. And I couldn't wait to get it so I could magnetize it and show all of you how to magnetize it. And then I was going to paint it. It's going to look really cool with my Imperial Guard army. But it turns out you can't magnetize these. Well, you can, but not cleanly. Let's discuss, shall we? Yeah, this was not the video I was hoping to put out, but I think it's important for you guys to know, in case you have your eyes on these and you still haven't bought them, but you're thinking, you know what, I want to have this in my collection and I want to magnetize the crap out of them so I can field any one of these that I want. Well, you can't. Now without some serious skills in cutting and sculpting. Here's what I found. So, if we take a look at our manual, you see that we have three choices. We have three variants of the field ordnance battery that we can build. We have this guy, which is the bombard cannon. It is a not line of sight weapon, so you can use this to lob shells into your opponents from places that they can't see you. Something that I think my Imperial Guard would prefer, since they have flak armor, and that makes them very squishy. You have this guy, which is apparently a rocket launcher. I think it's called a Malleus rocket launcher. Looks pretty neat, and it shoots out a barrage of missiles, rockets, or whatever. A lot of them, actually. And you have this guy, a heavy las cannon. I don't know what makes it heavy. I don't know if the weapon profile is different from your normal run-of-the-mill las cannon. Run-of-the-mill. But you have one of these three options. The problem, of course, is that you have two bases, which means that you can complete two, right? So you can mix and match. You can make one of these and one of these, or one of these and one of these. We can foil method that out so you can see all the different combinations you can make, or you can make two of these and two of these and two of these. So obviously I thought, let's magnetize, right? That way we can field any variation of these combinations that we want. Maximum tactical flexibility on the game board. Alas, while these models are beautiful, they're detailed, they're kind of realistic looking, there's everything to love about these models, except for that you can't really magnetize it so you can mount these different weapon options. You basically have to be satisfied with picking what you're going to deploy every single time. And that's kind of a bummer. Now let me be clear, this doesn't mean that you cannot magnetize these. It's just that it's out of the skill level of every beginner. And most of us who are moderately experienced. If you're a Class A miniature builder where you have no problems making tiny little holes or sculpting new pieces, or if you have a 3D printer, then it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but it's not really impossible. You can do this to your heart's content. I am not skilled enough for that, and there's a really good chance that neither are you. If you have a 3D printer, you can override some of these problems. You're still left with a finicky magnetization job, but it's a lot more doable than if you don't. And I do not have a 3D printer, and I have no plans of getting one anytime soon. So, where is the problem? I followed my usual process, which begins with building as much as a model as I possibly can before I need to start thinking about magnetization. Usually that means I get to build the entire chassis and then just have to worry about how I'm going to magnetize the armament, right? Sometimes it's a little tricky because you want to have magnets inside of the chassis so you don't have to, so it minimizes the number of visible holes that you see. Other times it's pretty straightforward. It's just clearly the weapon mount and the interface. That's all you have to magnetize and you're good to go. Here, it's a little different. This is about as far as you can go building your model before you have to start making allowances for magnets. I don't know what you call this thing. It's the chassis that carries around the weapon. one of which looks like this. It looks awesome, kind of like a tiny little earth shaker cannon, which I love. And generally speaking, you'd need a magnet here and a magnet here, and you can magnetize to your heart's content. But let's look at the things that we have to magnetize. On the bombard cannon, the magnets are going to go on these little feet, these tiny, tiny little feet right here. This is not a part that you want to glue on to the cannon because you want the cannon to swivel up and down. It's not necessary, but it's the way I prefer to do things, and probably a lot of you are the same. So look at this guy. Look at how tiny it is. You'd need a magnet to go right in there. Or you could just glue a magnet to this little piece right here, and it's going to be taller than that piece. I keep dropping these things, I don't know. But doing that would allow you to magnetize to this chassis, assuming that you have a magnet down here as well. Assuming you can overcome this problem, right, of, magnetizing here and here, you come up to the other, and the real problem with this approach is that you have this beautiful ass cannon. And this beautiful ass cannon attaches to this beautiful chassis in exactly the same way as these bombard cannons. And you only get enough parts in this kit to mount 2 weapons. These very same mounts are the ones that these would need. So you can only do 2 of these at a time. You can't do all 4, which is what you would need to do to kind of mix and match. Now, you could get around this. You could by attaching these feet permanently to the chassis and then magnetizing, instead of the feet to the chassis, you're magnetizing this weapon and this weapon to these little feet, these tiny little pieces. Look at how much space you have to achieve, say, magnetization. Yeah, it's really tight. You could, I guess, just take this little peg off right here and glue a magnet there and then countersink it in here, but that's a bear. You'd have to do it here as well and hope that you get it exactly right, because now these 2 pieces are attached permanently to your chassis, and these would have to sink right in there every time. You have to get the countersink into this weapon exactly right. Yeah, it's doable, but it's a ton of work, and you're gonna mess it up if you're not really, really good at this. And I am just, quite frankly, not that good. I know my limitations. I could give it a shot and ruin these, but I don't know. I feel it like that wouldn't be good advice. If I showed you how to do it and I messed it up and then you tried it, you'd be like, dude, what the hell? And rightfully so. Now that, let's just assume you wanted to do that. Cool, congratulations, dude, you're way better than me. You still have this to contend with. This is the Malleus rocket launcher, and it looks sweet, and I wish I could have it mounted on these guys, but this is how they're mounted. This piece right here, this central part, this goes right in the middle of these 2. You cannot have these and this attached at the same time. It's going to be a game of either or. So the only possible solution really is to do both magnets. Magnetize right here and magnetize right here so that you can do this. You can magnetize the bottom part of this to the central part of that. There is still a little bit of worry. You're going to have to do a really good job because part of that little gear there is inside that slot where the magnet for this is going to be. So, again, totally doable if you have the skills. And that seems like a lot of work to do, to get 2 of these bad boys in the field with maximum tactical flexibility. It's a really high risk of ruining your model, making it look gross and chintzy. I don't know, man. I can't recommend it. I haven't even talked about the extra magnetization that we do, because you will have to do some extra magnetization. This guy right here, this shield that goes in front of this weapons platform, it goes on like so. Looks pretty sweet. And only 2 out of your 3 weapons use this. Your bombard cannon uses it. Your last cannon uses it. But these guys don't use this piece. The missile launchers, the Malleus missile launcher uses this piece, which is kind of upside down. It looks like this, which means you have to magnetize this tiny little piece right here to that tiny piece right here that, oh, by the way, is you can't get to it from the inside. You're going to have to drill a hole in here, but it is kind of hollow. You just can't get to it the optimal way. It's kind of a mess, to be honest with you. So you'd have to figure this out. This is doable, and it might look a little sloppy, but it's certainly doable. Even someone with my skill level can probably pull it off. It just seems like a lot of work for this, and I don't know that it's worth it. The last complication, I'm not even going to cut the piece out because I've already got a lot of bits that I'm not going to use right now. See the last cannon? It actually has like circuits of wires going from it to the chassis, and it looks like that. Our options here are just completely avoiding using that at all, which is the approach I was going to take, or somehow magnetizing the bottom so it goes onto the base, but then this piece right here, this flimsy thing, is attached to the last cannon, or you can magnetize these wires somehow. No thanks. It's a ton of work, and a while ago it went over the amount of effort that I'm willing to do, thus over the amount of effort that I recommend you do, or take, or exert. Yeah, exert. And finally, you have these ammo boxes, which have these really cool bits of ammo inside it. You probably wouldn't want to have one of these on your base that has a last cannon on it, or you wouldn't want to have these when there's these in there. So you have to either pick one and glue it and just be fine with it. It's going to look weird if you have a last cannon, or you could magnetize them to this thing, or, here's what I was going to do, I was going to close the darn box. Meaning that I wouldn't have to paint these, but it wouldn't look as cool as having this box open, having the guardsman reaching in there to grab the weapon or grab the ammo out of the box. You're sacrificing some for the sake of magnetization, and yeah, I've done that before. It just kind of feels lame here. And at the end of the day, maybe each of these kind of 4 issues that I found individually, by themselves, maybe I would have attempted them. But in combination with each other, you're going to end up with a bunch of little magnets all over your model, and some even on your base. Yeah, it's not worth it. I'm just going to buy some more of these. It's ultimately more of these. Yeah, it's a cool model. It's a cool model kit, and you know what? I don't think I'd mind having 6 of these so I can have 2 of each variant. Because maybe my Imperial Guard army needs that many heavy weapons. Yeah, so, man, I struggled with this one. I really wanted to pull it off, but I just cannot in good conscience recommend it. I certainly don't want a janky model, and I don't want your field ordnance battery to look janky AF. So, do yourself a favor. Skip it. Skip it entirely. Save your magnetization energy for a kit that is less convoluted. And hey, get yourself more big shooters. Wait, that's orcs. Big guns. You need all the big guns. Your Imperial Guard. You'll find a place for it in your army. And here's the bonus. You're going to have a ton of extra bits, and everyone loves extra bits. That's all I got. I wish I had better news for you, but hey, more models, man. More models. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this helped. Have a wonderful afternoon. Be nice to yourselves and each other. Peace.